My name is Carlin Barasenko, and you're listening to the Actively Unwoke podcast, where I will break down the language and the tactics of the far left in plain English so that you can understand every crazy thing that is happening around you in the world today. Access full archives of the podcast over on my Substack, Carlin, KARLYN.substack.com. And if you feel so inclined, please consider supporting the work I'm doing by signing up for a membership of $8 a month or $80 a year. I am 100% grassroots funded by you, and I can't do this without you. So there was an article that appeared in the New York Post last week titled the following: Socialist NYC councilwoman claims queer liberation is tied to Free Palestine. Socialist Queens councilwoman Tiffany Cubbin bizarrely claimed at a Pride Month celebration that, quote, queer liberation means Free Palestine, unquote, infuriating some LGBTQ+ and Jewish people. The speech from a co-chair of the City Council's LGBTQ+ caucus was met with cheers at Queen's Pride Fest, according to sources, but others questioned what the 36-year-old Cubbin was thinking. One wonders how Cubbin ties queer liberation with calls for the establishment of a country that would have the death penalty for LGBTQ people, said one outraged Jewish New Yorker. All right. The reason I bring this article up is because this particular phrase, Queers for Palestine, or any derivation of it, has caused more confusion among non-leftist people than anything else that has happened possibly in the last 9 or 10 months. And to be quite frank, it's a massive reflection of the fact that the vast majority of people out there still do not understand the left. Now, this is a problem because there are an awful lot of you out there, and probably even some people listening to this podcast right now, that really think you understand the left. You think you understand the left because you go on libs of TikTok and you see these crazy leftists acting in crazy ways and doing crazy things. You listen to your favorite conservative commentators that are always telling you all about all the crazy things the left are doing, and you think you understand the left because of that. But I want to deliver you a hard truth right now. If you do not understand the phrase, Queers for Palestine, you do not understand the left. And I don't say that to make you feel bad. I don't say that to make you question everything you know is true. Okay, maybe I do say it a little bit to make you question everything you think is true. Because when you do understand the language of the left, it is very clear what the left is talking about when they say Queers for Palestine. Allow me to break it down. And I do have a full written article over on the Substack that addresses this exact topic. It is in the Woke 101 section. It is titled What Queers for Palestine Means. I will link to that article in the show notes so that you can find it easily. But let me give you the too long didn't read. The New York Post article says that this councilwoman says queer liberation means Free Palestine. So we need to start with a definition of what queer liberation actually means when you speak leftist. In order to understand that, you need to understand that every single thing the left does, everything, from anything having to do with race, gender, sexuality, environmental justice, social justice, whatever issue the left is protesting about, whatever they're complaining about, whatever they're trying to convince you of, every single one of those issues leads back to one place, and that is the abolition of capitalism. Capitalism in this case is defined very specifically as private property ownership. We're not talking about corrupt capitalism. We're not talking about crony capitalism. We're not talking about any of that. We're not talking about the factories. We're not talking about just seizing the means of production. They are talking about abolishing all private property ownership. This is not something that's just going to affect rich people that own massive companies. This is something that's going to affect everyone, because when the left says private property, they mean your ability to own a home, to own land, to own a business. Your parental rights are considered to be a form of private property. Your individual liberties are considered to be a form of private property. There's some other stuff too. The point is that when you hear the word capitalism, it means your ability to own a home, your ability to parent your children, your ability to own land, your ability to start a business. That's what they're talking about, all right? I've been saying for years, the 4 goals of the woke left are as follows. Number 1, gain as much power as possible. Number 2, destabilize the system. Number 3, attack capitalism. Number 4, usher in their Marxist utopia. I also have those 4 goals outlined over on the Substack in a number of articles. So back to this idea of queer liberation. If we understand that everything the left does is about abolishing capitalism, we then understand that the phrase queer liberation, even though it sounds like it has something to do with gender and sexuality, it is still about abolishing capitalism. And we know that's true because the term queer is not about being gay. It's not about being trans. You do not have to be gay or trans in order to be queer. The only thing you have to do to be queer is to declare that you are queer. When you see people saying they're non-binary, that is a declaration that they are queer. Again, those people may not be gay, those people may not be trans, but they say they're non-binary because you don't have to do anything to say you're non-binary. Non-binary is simply a declaration that you do not ascribe to the gender binary. The gender binary means men and women. The reason they don't want you ascribing to the gender binary is, wait for it, they believe that capitalism created the gender binary by putting men in the workplace and women in the home. That's also called the patriarchy. We also know from the Mary Nardini Gang. The Mary Nardini Gang is an anarchist group out of Milwaukee that started in the 90s. They wrote what is effectively the queer Marxism manifesto, the manifesto that pretty much every queer Marxist knows, has read. Now, normies have never heard of this. You've probably never heard of the Mary Nardini Gang, but that's because you're not a queer Marxist. Queer Marxists have heard of the Mary Nardini Gang. They quote the Mary Nardini Gang all the time, and in their manifesto, through a queerist insurrection, they literally say, queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. I'm going to say that again. That is a direct quote from the Mary Nardini Gang. And again, you can find this over on the Substack. Towards the queerist insurrection. Queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. The liberation of queer people is intrinsically tied to the annihilation of capitalism. They say this explicitly. So when you see the term queer liberation, they're not talking about being gay. They're not talking about being trans. They're not talking about dyeing your hair pink or changing your clothes or cutting your hair or getting crazy tattoos or presenting in a way that's ugly to the world or protesting or any of these things. Queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. So now let's talk about Free Palestine, because we've covered this over on my Substack many times as well. The reason that leftists support Palestine actually has less to do with the Palestinians themselves, although there has always been a Free Palestine movement on the left. However, the Free Palestine movement on the left has been largely co-opted by radical revolutionary socialists that are utilizing the Free Palestine movement for their own purposes. And so the reason that leftists support the Palestinian cause against Israel is because they very literally believe that the Palestinians are fighting the evil capitalist oppressors. They call them the settler colonists. Think about how many times you've heard in the media leftists call Israel settler colonists, or references to colonialism or colonization, or even decolonization, because decolonization means removing the evil settler colonists. Colonization or colonialism, they use these terms pretty much interchangeably, means to privatize indigenous land that was previously held by the collective under the oppressive force of capitalism. Remember, capitalism is defined as private property ownership. So when we're talking about colonization, the privatization of the land, that falls under capitalism. Colonization or colonialism means the same as capitalism. So now we're starting to get a little bit of a different picture, right? Because now we know that queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Now we know the left is fighting in favor of the Palestinians because they believe the Palestinians are in the glorious uprising against capitalism. They're on the same team. If you don't understand what the words mean, if you don't understand the definitions the left ascribes to those words, it might seem like they're on different teams. But once you understand the definitions, their definition, not your definition. Your definition does not matter here, and I know you probably don't want to hear that, but that's just the case. If you're trying to understand why other people are saying and doing the things that they are, you have to understand their definition of the word. And I'll add one last thing in. We have heard repeatedly from leftists, they say this all the time, no one is free until everyone is free. Well, what does that mean? It means no one is free until everyone is free from capitalism. That's what it means. I'm going to play you a clip from Mary Bowman. Mary Bowman was a speaker at the Socialism 2023 conference, and Mary, in the presentation, gets at this idea. We cannot be in a free society as long as capitalism exists. Listen to it in context.
And yes, ultimately, and if that wasn't clear from the end of my talk, that will require a revolution. We cannot be free under capitalism. We cannot be free in this society as long as any person is in prison, as long as any person is denied health care for something necessary. No, that will never be free.
All right, so now do you get it? Queers for Palestine has nothing to do with being gay or trans, because you do not have to be gay or trans to be queer. Queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Leftists support the Palestinians because they believe the Palestinians are in a glorious uprising against the evil, capitalist, colonialist settlers that are the Israelis. And the left believes that no one is free until everyone is free from capitalism. So what does Queers for Palestine means? It means abolish capitalism. And they're all on the same team. And they may have stuff that they disagree on, but they can bicker about that later, because the number one goal, always and forever, of the far left is to abolish capitalism, and that is it. You do not understand the left if you do not understand this. This is not a throwaway. Capitalism means everything. Capitalism means our entire way of life. Again, capitalism, as the left defines it, maybe not how you define it, but as the left defines it, means your ability to own a home. They don't want you to do that. Your ability to own land. They don't want you to do that. They don't believe in privatized land. Your ability to own a business. They might say, we're not going to take your business away. It's just going to be the big industries that we're going to take away. You're going to be fine. But that's not what they mean. They call small businesses petit bourgeois. Means they're talking about your business too. If you own more private property, more stuff, more supplies, have more money, have more resources than someone else, they don't want that to be the case. And once you get into the abolish the family content that I cover, and you learn that your parental rights are literally considered to be a form of private property under capitalism, that's when it starts to get really scary, because not only do they want to abolish your ability to own a home, to own land, to own a business, they want to abolish your ability to raise your children. This is why you're seeing all the attacks on parental rights in the country right now. And they also want to abolish all individual liberties. They consider freedom of speech to be a form of private property, freedom of thought to be a form of private property, freedom of religion to be a form of private property. Do you get it yet? Capitalism, as the left defines it, is not just going to the store and buying some stuff. It's not just these big international corporations that have all this factory equipment. That's not what they're talking about. When they say they want to control the means of production are the people. It's the people. They literally talk about this in their abolish the family content. I know this is a bit off topic of this podcast, but I'll say it anyway. We've got a little extra time. They literally talk about this in their abolish the family content because they talk about the idea of social reproduction theory. Social reproduction theory means that a social system will reproduce itself until it is disrupted. what they believe is that the nuclear family, where parental rights lives, they believe that the nuclear family will reproduce capitalism until the nuclear family is disrupted. That's why they want to abolish the nuclear family. That's why they want to abolish parental rights. Because they believe they have to do that in order to abolish the evil, oppressive capitalist system, because they believe that capitalism creates all problems in the world. And everything I'm saying right now, I have them on video saying it. So when they say that they want to control the means of production, they're not just talking about the factories. They're not talking about the equipment. They're talking about the people. They consider the people to be the means of production of capitalism. And if they don't control the people, they can't abolish capitalism. And that is always their goal. Queers for Palestine means abolish capitalism. It means standing in solidarity with everyone all over the world who is fighting the evils of capitalism. And now you know what the language means. And there's a lot more to this. If you're thinking this is all coming out of left field, I would highly recommend heading over to my Substack. And what I'd like you to do is click on the link at the very top of the Substack. Again, the URL of the Substack is Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Click on the link at the very top that says How to Speak Socialist. And at the very top of that page, you are going to find a link to a 4-hour on-demand class, your crash course on the language of the left. This is a totally free resource in which I walk you through dozens of clips that I've taken from leftist trainings over the last several years, and I show you exactly what they say when they think you're not listening. And they do say all this stuff overtly, so you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to trust me. I've documented everything that I'm saying with primary source receipts over on the Substack, and you can go and look for yourself, and you can see for yourself what the left says. I'm not telling you what I think about the left. I'm telling you what they say in their private spaces when they think people like us are not listening. All right, guys, that's all I have for right now. Thank you for listening. And again, please make sure you are subscribed over on my Substack, Karlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Subscribing is free. You get free email updates. But if you'd like to support the work I'm doing and help me spread this information as widely as possible about what the left actually means when they say these things, you can sign up for a membership. $8 a month, $80 a year, keeps me in business. I really do appreciate it. We'll see you next time, guys. Have a great rest of your day.